Have you ever wanted an intimate glimpse into the life of a concert pianist? Well, now, thanks to Rami Bar-Niv's autobiography, Blood, Sweat and Tours, you can. I had the pleasure of reading it recently, and I just wanted to share some thoughts with you. Are you sitting comfortably? Then let's begin. Hi, this is Tommy with Tommy's Piano Corner, the place for returning pianists, or indeed anybody who loves piano, to share tips and ideas of how to get the best from this great hobby. If it's your first trip here, then please do think about subscribing. Simply hit the little icon in the bottom right hand corner of your screen now, and it's all done for you. I've always been sort of fascinated by what it must be like to be a concert pianist. I mean, we see these guys on stage executing music that, we can only dream of playing, and to them it's perfectly effortless. It's almost as if they live in some kind of ivory tower with a beautiful piano and get wheeled out every now and then to give a concert. But is that really an accurate view of what being a pianist is all about? Blood, Sweat and Tours is basically written from Rami's diaries over the years, and in there you'll find all of the performances, all of the places he visited, the people that he met, and this in itself is very interesting. However, what it gives you in addition to that is a view of what goes into the artist on stage and all of the things that go on in the background. Rami gives us a fascinating glimpse into his professional life and all of the things that go in addition to the daily practice to be able to be a good pianist. So all the things that make the business side of things. Equally, how often do we even think about the artist on stage needing to juggle all of the obligations of being a husband and father or a wife and mother, as well as having this all-consuming passion for piano? Rami was born in 1945, so I'll let you work out his age for yourself. And he started piano when he was about 5 years old. He was born into a post-war Tel Aviv, so as you can guess, following what can only be described as exceptionally dark years for Europe and the rest of the world. In Blood, Sweat and Tears, Rami has basically documented his life starting right from those very earliest years, including some details of his family before he was even born, and taken us pretty much through to the present day. For me, the chronological nature of the book is quite interesting in that you get the historical backdrop of things, and it allows you to put lots of stuff in context. And tiny little details are interesting, such as the fact that at one point, ordering a phone could have a 5 or a 10-year lead time to it, and you think now, if we had to wait 5 hours, we go absolutely mad about it. Similarly, going back to those days, things like national service were also a feature of many people's lives, and you can only imagine just how much that would disrupt the life of any aspiring musician. One tiny little touch which for me makes it very easy to set things in context is that he also mentions in it some of the films that he saw with his wife in particular years. And whilst I quite often find it difficult to situate my own life in time, I can often remember what I was up to when a given film came out. So if you ask me what was I doing in 1977, I wouldn't have the first idea. But if you said, what were you doing the year the first Star Wars film came out, then I could tell you exactly what I was doing. So be ready for a roller coaster ride of dates, destinations and dignitaries as Rami takes you through all of these years. Equally, be ready to have a little chuckle and occasionally want to wipe your eyes as he takes you through some great personal joys and some massive personal tragedies. He says that he's always been a practising fanatic, but in honesty, when you read everything else that he's done, it makes you wonder where on earth he ever found the time to do it, though clearly, of course, he did. Going back then to the less pianistic side of things, Rami gives us a fascinating glimpse into the business side of being a successful pianist. Clearly, tours don't come out of thin air. There's blood and sweat involved in getting them organised. Whether it was in the 1960s or it's in the present day, the point is, if you want to be heard, then you have to spend the time to promote yourself and, as they say these days, get yourself out there. Often we're only aware of artists after they have become successful, and of course success breeds success, doesn't it? But if you want to be invited to play in places, then people need to have heard you first. You need to have gone through the effort of promoting yourself, of getting your name known to people. Of course, promoting yourself maybe now is very different to what it was then, but ultimately, whether it's 1960 or 2020, nothing just happens all on its own. When Rami started out as a performer, of course, there was no Facebook or Instagram or YouTube and all of these things. And if you wanted to be known, the way that you had to get involved was by meeting people, you had to call people, you had to even write to people. There was no Google to look things up. It was all a hard, long slog to get it done. I bet you'll be very surprised at just how much effort Rami had to put into that side of his pianistic life. I think we all really think of piano as being quite a lonely occupation, and sure, in many ways it is. You know, there's many hours that we spend practicing on our own, locked away. However, one thing that for me did jump from the pages of Blood, Sweat and Tears is that in fact Rami's a very gregarious person, and I'm sure that that has been a major element in his success as a pianist. I think he's clearly a people person, and over the years has forged many lasting connections with people from all different walks of life. I think these personal connections forged over the years have been a key element of his success. And aside from the art and piano and music side of things, he also takes the time to thank those people who helped him with some of the more mundane tasks, such as driving him to concert venues when he was on tours. Let's consider also then the topic of money for a moment. In reality, much of the work of being a pianist, of course, is not directly paid. I mean, you don't get paid for every hour you spend at the piano practicing, do you? Equally, promotional work doesn't lead to linearly paid rewards either, does it? I mean, if you're in regular employment like me, then every time you answer the phone, every time you send an email or give an interview, then you're being paid for it, aren't you? But if you're a musician, then generally this comfort isn't there financially. Yet, like all of us, concert pianists still need to earn a living. As you might suspect, earlier on in his career, I'm sure he earned a good proportion of his income from things such as teaching and accompanying, you know, very important revenue streams for any musician. However, whilst you're doing these things, of course, they're taking time away from other things that you could be doing. And Rami at one point made the conscious decision to step back a little bit from some of these other activities and focus on his concertizing career. Of course, we all know that it's a risky strategy to put all of our eggs into one basket, and of course Rami didn't do this. He came up with some other novel ways of adding to his revenue streams, as we say these days, by, for example, taking suitcases full of his self-produced records to sell at his concerts. Clearly a very different proposition to Spotify as we have these days. It just goes to show that with a little bit of thought, the concert isn't just about playing the piano and taking a bow. As we progress further through the book, Rami gives us some very interesting insights into a lot of topics ranging from, I don't know, piano technique and interpretation to health and diet, not to mention a good dose of musical jokes that he's picked up over the years. Of course, any review of his autobiography would probably not be complete without mentioning his piano fingering book. And as you know, I have a copy of it and I've reviewed it in the past. I've linked it below for you. I was fairly surprised to learn through reading his autobiography that in fact for the first edition of his book, he had to do pretty much everything all on his own. And that's a massive learning curve to go through. And then it made me sort of smile later on when he said, with hindsight, he was actually quite pleased that he'd had to do all of this himself, because of course it meant that he didn't need to share the toils of his labours with a publisher. If you don't have a copy of it yet, I've put the Amazon link in the description below for you. Rami still is, of course, a performing artist, and I suspect as long as he can get on a plane and sit at a piano, he always will be. However, now he does devote a lot more of his time to helping other musicians by the Facebook groups that he runs and, of course, his famous piano camps. So enjoy a good walk through a very rich life, both musically and otherwise. Getting an access all areas glimpse like this of a pianist's life is extremely rare. If you're not already, then please do subscribe to Tommy's Piano Corner. Don't forget to click that little bell icon so you're notified of new videos as and when they're released. I thank you very much for watching and look forward to seeing you soon.